Hi there, I'm Monette Satterfield. Welcome to my studio. I'm so glad you're here with me. I'm going to be making foam block print stamps today. And I just want to remind you that this is brought to you filmed live and then unedited. So everything that happens here is what happened while I was working on this project. And this project is an adjunct to my yearly postcards. I make and send to a few people a printed postcard at Christmas time. The list is pretty short, but I do like to make them by hand, and every year I try to do something different. I've done them gel printing, watercolors, it varies. This year I want to experiment with some block printing techniques that I explored earlier in the year when I did a small residency. And what I use foam instead of linoleum blocks. Because, well, carving a linoleum block is a commitment. I mean, I agree. And what I have hit on is using foam and carving a foam stamp block. And it's not as durable. It's absolutely not the same technique. It's not a true printmaker's technique, but it gives some interesting, really nice looks. This is one that I did earlier, and it's a series of stars. So this one would work pretty well for Christmas, but I'm going to do a different one. And what I carve these out of is foam. I mean, normally I use, these are foam deli trays. That's what they are. And it's about maybe 1/8 of an inch thick, and it's got some good body to it so you can carve into it. Or when I say carve, you press into it or write. Now what I've done is I've carved them, and then I like to mount them, and I'll either mount them on, this one's on cardboard. I'll use cardboard for the bigger ones. And for some of the smaller ones, because sometimes I use them to make smaller stamps, I will mount them on this, this thicker dimensional foam. And that foam is actually, it's actually builder's foam. You can get it at the building supply store. I get it in the big sheets because I also use this to mount my canvas to. So it has a lot of uses here. So that's what I'm going to do. And I've all ready to start so that I don't have to cut this. I did cut the beginning piece out of my deli tray because I already had it measured. It's 5.5 by 3.5 because I want it to fit nicely on my postcard, which is 4 by 6. So what I'll do is I'll have a very nice margin when I print them. And of course, I'll have to be careful to print them well, but I'll have that. So I cut that out of the deli tray. And the reason I did that is because the tools I use to do this, very simple. That's another benefit of using the foam. The tools, you don't need quite the array of carving tools that you would if you're carving a linoleum block. And I've carved blocks, and it gives a beautiful, beautiful effect, much crisper. It has a much crisper look. The lines are crisper, and the blocks last a lot longer because they won't last forever out of foam, but they are much easier to do. And I basically, these are my tools. A good ruler, very sharp knife. This is a regular old X-Acto blade, which is why I wanted to cut the body piece out first, because that's the most likely to cut your finger, and I don't think you want to see that. Pencil and a stylus to impress lines with, and a cutting mat. That's it. And then the design. That is the one thing to remember about using a piece of foam as opposed to a linoleum block is I don't carve away. So it is a little bit trickier, or not tricky. No, it's not tricky. You just have to pay attention to, in general, I'm not going to be carving away a lot of the block, so there won't be as much white space unless I did it a different way. And that's that it's easier to have more printed in and to carve out a little than it is to carve out a lot and have a little printed in. So that is a difference. And so I've just looked at some design ideas. I've got a few here on my paper, which is going to probably become studio ephemera before this project is done. I've got a Christmas tree. I've got a little gnome. He was cute. I thought he was cute. Some Christmas ornaments and a night star scene. And for this first one, because honestly, another reason the foam is nice is it doesn't take too long to make one as opposed to carving out a linoleum block. And so you can see a lot faster if that design is going to work. So this may take more than one. I may do all 4 of these. I may do 1 or 2. We'll find out. But I'm going to do the Christmas tree first. And I don't spend a lot of time fussing around with this. I know some people want to draw it on there and transfer it and make sure it's just perfect, but I'm not going to do that. I am going to, I forgot to bring this with me. I am at least going to draw on here my rough idea with chalk. Remember though that when you draw on this foam, it generally will imprint the foam a little bit and it will give you lines in the final block. So you do want to be kind of mindful when you start drawing on here that you might still have these lines. So I'm just going to sketch this Christmas tree in a little bit. And I'm not being careful here. It's a sketch. And that's one of the things I like about the foam blocks is the slightly, shall we say, wonky effect that you get. I kind of like that. So I'm going to go with that. I'm not going to overthink this. That's not how this works. And I did get a slight impression with the chalk, even being careful. So I'm just going to take a regular pencil. It's not super sharp. That it helps if it's not too sharp. It's a little bit dull. And so I'm just going to go ahead and draw around, impressing the lines into the foam. What I drew. Again, I'm not overthinking this. This is not, it does not have to be perfect. As a matter of fact, I like the way they look better when they're not perfect. I mean, honestly, if they look a little bit askew, I think they're more charming. I find them to be much more charming. And you can always clean up the outside lines a little bit. There is room for error here. Okay. And remember, the deeper the line you inscribe, the better it's going to print. And a lot of times I will go back and inscribe the lines in deeper just so that I get a nicer print, which is one of the things that's a very different effect from an actual linoleum block, is these lines will be a little soft. They're not going to be perfect. Okay. So there I have that. And you can see it's pretty much the same. Now, right now, what would happen is if I printed this the way it is, it would literally be a block of color with just those lines standing out, which that's not quite what I had in mind. So what I'm going to go do is I'm going to draw in some circles, which are ornaments. They're not circles, they're ornaments. And just kind of put them in there. And I'm going to aim to get an odd number in here just because I think they look better that way, but sometimes it doesn't work out. 5, 6. See, it didn't work out. All right, 6 it is. Now, to make those ornaments white, so they will show up as a bright line, they need to be recessed. And I'm just going to go ahead and use the point of my pencil to push those back to kind of really crush the foam. Because once this foam is mounted on the cardboard, it won't matter that you're crushing it to the back. That's one of the reasons I make the lines nice and deep, so that you get a good clean white space. Or color space. You could always do a 2-color print by printing a first color and then your print block on top of it. Okay. And again, I'm not making these precise or fancy or perfect because they're just not. I might clean up the lines a little bit. And remember, after you make your first print with these, you can go back and clean up your lines, or you can add more lines. You can always add more. You can't take them away though. What you put down, you keep. So you do want to keep in mind, if you're doing it iteratively, you want to go slow. So now I've got some circles in there, and I think I'd like the star to be white. So that's where I'm going to take my uber sharp knife. Please be careful using X-Acto blades. They are very sharp. They are very sharp. And keep your blade sharp. Keep a new blade in there because it's going to work better If you're forcing it or having to really struggle, that's more dangerous. And I just protect I know you can buy things to protect them, but I just use a piece of foam. So I'm going to just very carefully cut the star out. As in, I'm going to remove all of the material for the star. And that will cause the star itself at the top of the tree to be the same color as the back of as the backing of whatever I choose to print this on. Whether I choose to print it over a colored paper, which can be really pretty, by the way. Okay, now, when you're cutting these out and you have a piece that you're trying to cut out, do it in several passes, because if you try to force it out before you've cut all the way through it, it's possible you're going to tear or mar the front part of your stamp, and that's going to show. It's going to show, because that is one thing about the foam, is any little mark will show. It will absolutely show. We're getting there. And this is probably the most tedious part of this. Now, you can do these as elaborate. Oh, there it went. It's always exciting when it first comes out. But you gotta be careful. So you can do these as elaborately as you want, or as much as you'd like to work with this. The biggest drawback being, or the biggest limit, I guess I should say, it's not really a drawback, it's just the nature of the material, is that the foam is not precise. The foam is not going to give you super crisp lines like linoleum blocks would. It's a different medium. It's a different material. It's a different medium. And expecting it to give you the same effect as linoleum print blocks, you're going to be disappointed. But I have found that some of the results from this, put that blade away, are absolutely amazing. So there. Now, you can see right through the star, and you can see the holes, the round holes that are the ornaments, and the lines that are a little bit wonky. And then this back here, all of this, and anything that has not been carved out or pushed back will print the color that I ink or paint. I use paint, the block. Everything that's been cut out or pushed back will print white or the color of your background. So my next step then will be to cut a piece of cardboard and mount this to it. And so it will be mounted like this, and you'll be able to see right through where I cut that star. You'll be able to see right through it. And then I'm going to test print it. But that's going to be another few steps down the road, and we'll see how that goes. And these will be for my Christmas cards this year. So thanks for being here. I'm so glad you were with me. I've got more to do here. If you want to find out more and keep up with what's going on in the studio, sign up for my newsletter. I am not on social media, and that is the only way to really be in the know about what's going on and when open studios are coming up. So thanks again. I'll talk to you soon.